So, good morning again from Sherry Forsyth, a life coach in South Africa. And what I'm going to talk today about is the gifts, the unexpected gifts that we experience through loss. So, what gives me the right to speak about this is the fact that we lost our younger daughter, Kerry, 16, nearly 16 and a half years ago. When she was 9 years old, so she was quite a little tick. And the journey that we've experienced since then has been quite difficult. And in my work, I specialize in helping people blow the silence off the whole topic of grief. So if you find this video to be helpful to you, or you can think maybe of others it may help, I ask you to help me blow the silence off the topic of grief and to share my video with others. But as always, I thank you very much for joining me this morning, and I hope that these next few minutes you'll find of huge value. So the journey of loss, as we've discussed in our previous videos, is a difficult one. And what can help shed a little bit of light in a very dark place is the gifts that we find. Videos is a difficult one. Sorry. So in a very dark journey, there suddenly are gifts that come to us that help us. They ease our soul a little bit. Sometimes we need to look for them, and other times they are just right there in front of us. So we were very blessed, and so the video today is very much about the personal gifts that we received. But the gifts that you may receive will be different depending on the age of the person that died, what relationship they had to you, what kind of job they did, what kind of friends they had, and. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a chat on the gifts that we experienced in the loss of our little girl. And I think the first thing we became aware of was a few parents came and spoke to us about the fact that they could value their children more. They realized that we no longer had our Kerry to spend time with, to be with. And very unexpectedly, we no longer had our Kerry. And maybe it could happen to them. So it helped them to realize the value of being with their children. And so a number of them mentioned that they spent more quality time with their children, made time specially to do memorable things. They were more patient with them, over doing their homework, etc. So instead of being quite hard and frustrated and irritable, as parents can be, they were much more loving and compassionate. So that was a huge benefit that was being felt in the homes of our little village. The second gift that we experienced was for us to realize the importance of family and friends, and in fact that given in the big scheme of things, we found out what was really important for us, and that is the people that surround us and love us. So does it matter that there's dust on the mantelpiece? No. Does it matter that our kitchen might not be quite spick and span? No. What matters is the people who are in our lives. And I welcome Nicole. Glad you could join us this morning. Moving along. Immediately after the loss of Kerry, one of the most noticeable gifts for us was the huge outpouring of love from our community. it was just amazing how everybody seemed to know, and everybody approached us in a very compassionate way. We had our good friend Helen provided us, she organized a roster. We had meals delivered by friends and family and just other parents in the school for a whole month after the loss of Kerry. We could have opened a florist with a number of flower decorations that we received. We had people shopping for us. We had people asking if they could help with our older daughter, Kathleen. So it really renewed our faith in the human race, in experiencing the outpouring of love from our little community. We were also told that we were being very generous in our grief, which I didn't really understand at the time. But I think what people were saying was we didn't try and hide away. We were out and about in the community. We were out and about at school. And we were not trying to pretend anything other than we were shattered. So we were quite open to people speaking to us, speaking about Kerry. And in doing that, it helped other people to be more relaxed. A lot of time people don't know what to say when you've experienced such a loss, so it can be quite awkward. But because we were very authentic in the way we approached our grief, it allowed other people to be authentic as well. And that was a huge gift to us, that people were readily able to speak about Kerry, that they were able to ask how we were, how our parents were, how our remaining daughter Kathleen was. And not having the awkwardness was a major gift. So for those of you who have experienced a loss, that awkwardness is a very difficult thing to cope with. The gifts we were given were people who made a special effort to join us from far away. And we welcome Lelia to our talk this morning. I hope that you find it of benefit. We were touched with the fact that people traveled from so far. So we had Mark's sister coming in from Australia, my sister from Botswana, one of our favorite nieces from England, and she at that stage was still quite a young thing. She didn't have a lot of money, and the fact that she made the effort to be with us, just to be with us, was the gift. And we will never forget the generosity of those friends and family who made such an effort, not only over the time of the funeral, but for an extended period thereafter. Another gift was that some of our friends found renewed spirituality. They, as a family, started going back to church. They started living that additional aspect of their life that had previously been dying. So that for me was a particularly great gift. The other gift was that sometimes people that you don't really expect to step up to the plate really do. They seem to come out of the darkness, and there they are alongside you, supporting you, helping you day after day after day. And so for those unexpected people, it really was a gift to get to know them, but also to see how they were prepared to give, even though initially the relationship maybe didn't really require that. So that was very meaningful for us. The other gift that we received was the huge kindness of Kerry's teacher, who was amazing through the entire process. She was very aware of the process of loss, in that she had lost a brother herself. So she knew what these little children needed as 9-year-olds. And so she did things like she had them do fabric painting on a square of fabric, obviously, and then her and her mum sewed the bits of fabric together to form a quilt which actually we laid over Kerry's coffin at her service. She also was wise enough to know that the class actually needed Kerry's desk to remain in the classroom, and it remained there for a term with a little candle lit, so it could help the little children process the fact that Kerry was no longer with them. So those very little but very huge things were very special for us and incredibly meaningful. On a more personal note, the intense learning curve that happens as a result of loss has been amazing. I was 41 years old when Kerry died, and I pretty much thought, I had life sewn up. How arrogant. I didn't know much at all. What I've learned since then has been awesome. And that is a very unexpected gift in knowing how to deal now with people who are experiencing loss. But just the questioning that happens in my own mind has broadened my horizons immensely. And I still don't have life sewn up, but maybe I have a few more stitches along the way. Also, in that additional knowledge that you gain as a result of the loss of someone that you love, it quite often stops you in your tracks, makes you start thinking, and very often when you start thinking, you can go on a completely different path. And so whether it is that you go on a different path in the kind of person you are, or you might change your job, you might change your ways because you realize that maybe what you were doing wasn't great. But to find a new path is really exciting. And certainly my husband has found a new way of being, which is much healthier for him. He's totally authentic, instead of him feeling quite pressured at times to do and say the right things. So his growth has been quite phenomenal, and I admire that immensely. The other gift, just the final gift that I want to mention, and I welcome Debbie McCann, an old school friend from who's living now in New Zealand. Thank you for joining me on all of these videos. I really appreciate that. The final gift that I want to mention is that Kerry died of a tumor on her pituitary gland, and they were operating to remove the tumor. The gift that we received, and it sounds very bizarre, but was in the fact that she did pass away. She could have remained alive, severely disabled, unable to see, grossly overweight, suffering epileptic seizures every few minutes. The quality of life that she would have lived would have been dreadful. And likewise, our lives in looking after her would have been incredibly difficult. We probably would have put all our time and effort into looking after Kerry, and our attention would have been limited to our older daughter, Kathleen. So the fact that she passed away, we do see as a blessing rather than, we would have hated her to have suffered so much if she had lived with all of those hardships. So I encourage you in your grieving process to look for the gifts. Some, as I said before, are right in your face. They're difficult to miss. Others you need to look for. And when you see them, your soul just lifts that tiny little bit in, well, maybe the loss wasn't for nothing. There is something good that's coming out of it. So I thank you very much for joining me, for spending your precious time this morning. And I welcome also my sister-in-law Ding to this talk. And I hope that you have found it of benefit as well. So I challenge you to look for the gifts in your loss, even if it happened a long time ago, let's put a bit of a positive slant on it rather than live in the pain all the time. And I ask you to comment below if there were particular gifts that you have experienced that you would like to share with us. And at the beginning of our next talk, next Thursday at 8 o'clock, I will share the gifts that you have shared with me, just to show people that there is a lot of positivity in what could be a very negative experience. So if you have enjoyed this video and you know of people who would benefit from it, I invite you please to share it. I invite you to comment, and let's start the conversation going around the world, and let's blow the lid off the silence of this topic of grieving. I thank you so much once again for your time, and I look forward to you joining me next Thursday.